In our interconnected world, scams have become a daily threat. This story is about the walls people build to protect their dignity, and how sometimes those walls can lead to unintended consequences. Sarah leaned back in her office chair, rubbing her temples as the printer hummed beside her. It had been a long week, 2 grant proposals due and a budget meeting looming, but the voicemail from her father kept playing in her head.
Hi, Sarah. Just wanted to let you know I paid off that Microsoft technician today. He said my computer's safe now. Can you come by this weekend?
Her heart had dropped the second she heard Microsoft technician. She called him immediately, but he was in good spirits, practically glowing with pride that he'd taken action to save his computer.
The number you've called is disconnected.
Scammers, Dad. They weren't Microsoft. They were pretending. This is a classic tech support scam.
I know what I saw. They showed me the virus on my screen. It was real, and they fixed it.
They showed you something, yes, but it was fake. They create pop-ups and remote in. Dad, you gave them access to your computer and gave them money to so-called fix your computer.
No, I only gave them gift cards for $3,000 so they could process the payment. They also asked for my address and social security number. That's standard procedure.
You don't give that out. They can ruin your identity, and they literally stole $3,000 from you just like that.
You always think I'm behind on this stuff. I know that the people on the phone were legit. One of them spoke to my bank and did everything for me on my behalf. I know a scam when I see one. These were professionals.
Exactly. They're professional scammers.
No need to worry, kiddo. You stress too much.
It took all her strength not to scream. Instead, she spent the rest of the afternoon combing through his laptop while he took care of Mum. It was riddled with malware, his browser hijacked, his email loaded with phishing links. With persistence, she told him that when he was finished tending to Mom, she would call the bank and they would hear what they had to say together. When they called the bank and provided their identification to them, the bank representative confirmed that no one had called the bank on his behalf. The only transactions that had occurred were the money that he withdrew to buy the gift cards that he provided to the scammers. The bank provided phone numbers to call and places to go to report the fraud.
Go to the police station and tell them what happened. I have put a note on your file, and if I see anything suspicious, we will give you a call. Make sure you call the 2 credit bureaus so that they will also put alerts on your credit report. So if anyone wants to use your identity to get credit cards or buy anything on credit, you will be alerted. We will also give you a new bank card just in case they have this information. One more thing. Make sure you call the Fraud Protection Office and let them know what happened.
Sarah felt like a detective cleaning up a crime scene after the suspect had called the cops on her. But the worst part wasn't the technical mess. It was Dad. The way he wouldn't see that he'd been fooled. That the people who called him sir and walked him through clicking a few buttons were wolves, dressed in customer service. It was the fact that $3,000 was gone, not traceable, not recoverable. This is the second time in 7 years that Harold had been a victim, and he seemed not to understand the seriousness of what happened. He didn't tell her that he gave them his social insurance number and address. She found out when she found his documents on desk, which indicated that he had provided the information to them. Normally he would secure these documents in his bottom drawer, so it was clear that he told them everything they wanted to know. Maybe Sarah would never know what else he had told them. When she brought it up again, gently, almost apologetically, he appeared annoyed.
They were trying to help. I believed them as they seemed so genuine. They were very patient with me as they stayed on the phone with me the entire time when I took the bus to the store, bought the cards and provided them with the codes on the card.
She wanted to cry because it wasn't just money. It was trust. It was his pride, his identity as someone who wasn't helpless. To admit that he was fooled would be to admit vulnerability, and he just couldn't. So she didn't push. She contacted a friend of the family who worked with computers, and he confirmed to Harold what had happened. The kind friend that he was decided to take his old computer, cleaned it completely, and give him a new one. After the weekend, Sarah overheard another conversation on the phone. Harold was telling someone on the phone about the person who was responsible for setting up his website.
Who are you talking to?
I am on the phone.
When he got off the phone call, he told her someone wanted to know about his website.
Do you know who you were talking to?
No.
Haven't you learned from what just happened on Friday? You cannot give information to people who you don't know. You can't answer phone calls when you don't know the phone number. You have to remember that you just lost $3,000.
Breaking news.
If that was not enough, about 1 p.m. that same day, the hackers called again because they thought they could get extra money from Harold. But Harold remembered what his daughter Sarah said. So for the first time, Harold took matter in his own hands and said,
Don't you ever call me again. You all are evil and wicked. You all will be rewarded for what you have done to me.
Sarah overheard what her dad was saying, and she knew exactly what happened. But she shook her head and thought about what had happened. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't against hackers behind distant screens. They're against the walls people build to protect their dignity. And love, she realized, meant learning to work around those walls, brick by brick.